Ahoy there, sailor. Ready to dive into some serious naval strategy? We're tackling NDP-1 today, zeroing in on Chapter 3, How We Fight.
Always a good one. It's like the playbook for the modern naval battlefield.
Exactly. And since you're out there on the front lines, we're going to make sure this deep dive gives you the insights you need, stuff you can actually use.
That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah,
Connect those dots between doctrine, history, the big picture stuff.
you got it. Now, NDP-1, it's not just about what ships or planes we have, it's about how we actually use them to achieve victory. Sound about right?
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's like you can have all the fancy tools in the world, but without the right strategy, you're not going to win any wars.
And in the Navy, strategy starts with knowing your battle space. And let me tell you, the modern naval battlefield, it's a whole lot more than just ships on the high seas.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're talking a multi-domain fight now. Seafloor to space, coastlines to cyberspace. It's mind-blowing.
Seriously complex, which is why NDP-1 breaks down naval warfare into what it calls 7 key warfare areas. No, these aren't just random categories, you know? They represent the immense scope of what the Navy does.
Right, and they're all intertwined. That's what makes it so challenging and fascinating.
Totally. Okay, so let's break down these warfare areas one by one. First up, air warfare and air and missile defense.
Still gotta love a good dogfight,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, it's gotten a lot more complicated since the Top Gun days.
No kidding. It's not just about fighter jets anymore, is it?
Nope. Think long-range missiles, those threats can come from anywhere. Enemy aircraft, sure, but also ships launching cruise missiles, even threats from land or underwater.
It's like the whole world's a potential launch pad now. And it's not just about protecting our ships out at sea either, is it?
Definitely not. Think ballistic missile defense.
Yeah.
Those Aegis destroyers, they might be protecting a city on the other side of the world from a missile attack.
Wild, right. Okay, next up, expeditionary warfare. You know, when I hear that, I always picture, like, Marines storming a beach.
Classic image. And yeah, that's part of it. But expeditionary warfare today, it's about projecting power ashore in so many ways. Special ops, riverine units, setting up those forward operating bases miles inland. It's a whole different ballgame.
It's like the Navy has its own special forces now.
In a way, yeah. Gotta be adaptable, have the right skills, right gear to operate in those kinds of environments.
Speaking of adaptation, let's talk about warfare in the information environment. This one seems like it's changing by the minute. What's the main thing our sailors need to know about this?
Well, it's not just about firewalls and passwords anymore. It's about controlling the narrative, disrupting the enemy's command and control, even messing with their decision-making process.
You're saying we can win battles without ever firing a shot.
Exactly. Imagine crippling an enemy fleet with a few keystrokes, disabling their comms, blinding their targeting systems. That's the power of information warfare today.
That's some next level stuff. Okay, moving on. We've got strike warfare. Now we're talking tomahawks raining from the sky, right?
That's one way to put it. But it's more than just bombs from planes these days.
Right.
It's about hitting targets inland with a symphony of coordinated strikes. Ships, subs, even marine artillery units all working together to cripple the enemy.
A symphony of destruction. I like the sound of that. All right, let's talk surface warfare. That's the classic naval battle, right? Cannons blazing away at each other.
Not exactly. We've moved on from the days of trading broadsides, but yeah, controlling the seas is still mission critical. But today it's about integration, using everything we've got. Aegis destroyers guiding fighter jets and submarine attacks all at the same time.
Sounds intense. Okay, last but definitely not least, undersea warfare. What's going on down there in the depths?
This is where things get really interesting. Think stealth, think sonar, think a world where silence is golden and every move counts.
Like a game of underwater chess, but with much higher stakes.
Exactly. You've got subs, of course, but also mines, unmanned vehicles, even sensors and weapons systems planted on the seabed.
It's a whole other world down there. It's amazing and a little scary how complex naval operations are these days. But one thing that jumps out from NDP-1 is that these warfare areas, they're not separate things. They all work together, right?
They're interconnected, like gears in a machine, or maybe instruments in an orchestra. Each one has its role, but it's how they all work together that creates something truly powerful.
And that brings us to operational art, right? Which is basically the strategy, the big picture thinking that guides how we use all these different warfare areas.
You got it. Operational art, it's about connecting the dots, seeing how those individual pieces fit into the big picture plan.
So it's like, how can I explain this? It's kind of like a giant jigsaw puzzle, right? Each warfare area is a piece, And operational art helps us see the whole picture.
Exactly. It's about understanding how those pieces fit together, how each action, each decision contributes to the overall strategy.
And speaking of strategy, NDP-1 breaks down operational art into four main elements, right? Planning, preparation, execution, and assessment. It's a cycle, always ongoing.
That's it. It's not some static plan you make and forget about. Yeah, things change fast out on the water. Got to be ready to adapt, improvise.
No timeouts in a naval battle, huh?
Exactly. And you got to remember those distances we're talking about. Sometimes thousands of miles between ships. Coordination's key.
Makes planning even more important then, I'd imagine.
It's crucial. But even the best plan in the world's useless if your sailors aren't ready. That's where preparation comes in. Training, equipping our people so they can handle anything.
Train like you fight. Fight like you train, right?
That's the motto. You want those instincts to kick in when the pressure's on. Muscle memory, knowing your gear inside and out.
And trusting your gut, too, right? Because out at sea, sometimes you got to make split-second decisions.
100%. And that's where that decentralized command thing comes in. NDP-1 really stresses that.
Decentralized command, what's that all about?
It means giving more decision-making power to leaders at all levels, not just waiting for orders from on high. Trusting those junior officers, the chiefs, the petty officers on the ground to make the right call.
Because sometimes they're the ones who see things first.
Often are. They've got the best view of the situation, the tactical awareness. So we empower them to act, to take initiative.
It's got to take a ton of trust both ways.
It does, but that's how we build a more agile, responsive Navy. We're not just robots following orders, we're thinking, adapting, taking the fight to the enemy.
And in this day and age, technology is changing so fast, being able to adapt on the fly is more important than ever.
No doubt. You can have all the fancy gadgets in the world, but if you can't integrate them, use them effectively, they're useless.
It's not just about having the best gear, it's about knowing how to use it, right?
Exactly. And constantly learning, evolving our tactics to stay one step ahead. So yeah, planning, preparation, execution, all vital. But then comes the crucial part, assessment. What worked, what didn't, how can we do better next time?
After action reports, debriefs, all that good stuff.
It's how we learn, how we get better as individuals and as a Navy.
Right.
We never want to stop improving.
That's the hallmark of a winning team, always striving for excellence.
Couldn't agree more. And that brings us to something else NDP-1 really emphasizes, the importance of history, of learning from the past.
Because those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, right?
And when it comes to the sea, well, let's just say those lessons can be pretty harsh if you ignore them.
Exactly.
And NDP-1, it really digs into those lessons, like take the Battle of Midway.
Right. Huge turning point in the Pacific War.
Absolutely. The US Navy, they were outnumbered by the Japanese fleet.
Hmm.
But we have better intel, more innovative tactics. Plus, that American fighting spirit.
Never underestimate that.
For sure.
For sure.
But the point is, those principles, intelligence, innovation, courage, they're timeless. Just as relevant today as they were back in 1942.
So true. But it's not just about memorizing old battles, right? It's about understanding the bigger context, how those historical events shape today's world.
Right on. Like, think about how sea power has always been tied to global trade. You control the sea lanes, you control the flow of goods, information. It shapes economies, influences entire nations.
Fascinating. So history isn't just a bunch of dusty old stories. It's directly relevant to what's happening right now.
100%. Understanding those historical currents, it helps us navigate the complex world we live in. And speaking of complex, one thing that's crystal clear in today's world is we can't do it alone. That's why NDP-1 puts so much emphasis on partnerships, on working with our allies.
Right. Got to have each other's backs out there.
Exactly. Think about it. One ship, no matter how powerful, can't be everywhere at once. But together, sharing intel, coordinating operations, that's how we multiply our strength.
It's like that old saying, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Nailed it. It's about building trust, making sure our systems can work together seamlessly, and showing the world that we're united in defending freedom, upholding the rules-based order.
Because in the end, it's about more than just military might, right? It's about shared values, a common purpose.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to something really important, something I hope every sailor listening takes to heart. Your role, whatever it is, it matters. You're part of something bigger than yourself, whether you're tracking contacts on radar, keeping those jets flying, or making sure supplies are flowing. You're contributing to that global mission of keeping the seas free and open.
Every cog in the machine is important.
Every single one. And never underestimate that. because the decisions you make, the actions you take, they have ripple effects. They impact the security of our nation and our allies around the world.
That's a powerful thought. And on that note, Sailor, we're going to have to wrap up this deep dive into NDP-1. We've covered a lot of ground, but hopefully you've gained some valuable insights into how the Navy operates, how we fight, and how you, as an individual sailor, play a crucial role in that fight.
Keep learning, keep asking those tough questions, and never underestimate your impact.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time, fair winds and following seas.